My name is Marina Prentoulis. I'm a senior lecturer in politics and media at the University of East Anglia. I'm a member of Syriza London, and for the past 6 months, I've been talking about what is happening in Greece and Syriza in London in the mainstream media. But before that, for the past 5 years, I've been working with different groups in Britain, like Greece Solidarity Campaign, and talking against austerity, and in a way trying to connect what is happening in Greece with the experience that we have in other countries as well in Europe. So what happened with the deal is that it was a very painful deal. It's not something that if we had a chance we would have accepted, but the politics that are happening on that level, on negotiations, and the threats and the blackmails that the negotiating team of Greece went through, it was amazing. I mean, sometimes people think that it is enough to say, no, we are not going to take this package, but it's not that simple. You have to remember that the banks were closed. An anarchic exit, it would have created a very difficult situation for the ground in Greece. I mean, the banks will be closed for months. You don't immediately move to another currency. And of course, knowing now how the European Union and the Eurozone works, we have to remember that it will be they will not allow you to come out from the Eurozone and be a success story. So there are a lot of threats and a lot of blackmails that they were involved in that. And of course, we should not forget, because especially from countries of the north, they forget that Greece has a very particular geopolitical position. And of course, it is always the situation around here is quite unstable as well. Mm. So it was a deal that I don't think anybody wanted. It is a deal that it was forced on the government, and this has been made clear by the Prime Minister and by the Syriza government as well. Now, the problem then is if this deal is going on, some people, they will say in the government will say, okay, but we have to move ahead and meanwhile try to create as much social policies as we can in order not to allow the poorest people to be hit hardest by this austerity. And of course, other MPs of Syriza, they said, no, we cannot vote for these bills. And I can understand both positions. It's not a easy situation. It is as if the government is between rock and a hard place. I mean, I still don't think that necessarily the Grexit has been avoided. I mean, what we saw on the night of June 12th is that the German government, the neoliberal German government, was willing to go to a great extent to bring Greece and the government to its knees in a very dictatorial and democratic way, which didn't think at all the Eurozone or the European Union. So obviously there is another plan there from Germany, the German government and their allies, which it has nothing to do with what some people were dreaming of, a social Europe, a democratic Europe. Now it seems very clear to a lot of people across the continent that we are moving to a German Europe, which is going to benefit only specific financial interest and of course the interest of very few countries like Germany. So the deal is not a deal that Syriza would have accepted, and of course it created a lot of right now there is a lot of discussion in the party, and the party is divided. I mean, it's still united, but there are two different positions. But austerity, as you said, it's going to hit the country hard. I hope that the government will manage not to hit the most vulnerable as much, but that means that we still have to go on and fight for austerity. And what we had in the previous 5 years, when we had similar agreements, is that we saw the starting of the creation of networks, grassroots networks, that they were trying to deal with austerity, solidarity networks, creating social clinics, creating food kitchens, and so on. Now, these are not charities in the sense that we have a charity in our mind. It's solidarity, and solidarity, when it's done on the grassroots level, it can be political without being party-oriented necessarily. It's the people coming together and in the process of trying to provide for other people around and create structures that they have been destroyed because of austerity, they become politically engaged and emancipated in a way. That doesn't mean, as I said, in terms of party politics, but in terms of active participatory democracy. So I think on the grassroots level, again, we need to go on expanding the structures and reorganizing the economic production of Greece as well, and try to be more imaginative in how we can be self-sufficient, how we organize agriculture, how we provide for the people that they will be hit by austerity, and expand this and make it a much bigger and much more dynamic movement. This is what we have to go on doing in Greece, but now we need to expand it. It has to become massive in order to be able to stop this attack that we will all be under.
Do you see the possibility to strengthen those movements, although there's the new memorandum on the table which says that you have to show up with every idea and political change at first on the institutions before you implement it in society?
But these are different levels that we are talking about. One is on the governmental level, and this was grassroots, and these are not networks that they were necessarily supported by the previous governments or anybody like that. This is the people coming together. So on the one hand, you have this offensive, which is the memorandum and what it will bring about, and on the other hand, you have grassroots resistance. As I said, the link there is that we have a government, left government, which, if there is space, and this is a big if, they will try to make sure that this is not going to hit the most vulnerable. And there are other issues there that Syriza government can do quite a lot. It has to do with corruption, which is a big issue in the Greek state, and it involves all previous governments. It has to do with tax evasion, and I'm talking about tax evasion on the higher levels, the very rich ones. And these are reforms that we have to, the Syriza government has to deal with in the during this time as well. Effectively attacking those that they have benefited from the crisis, the upper strata. But the grassroots movement is something different. Now, what I think Syriza didn't do, and it could have done, is to open up the structures of the party in a way that it will allow it much more to connect with these movements. Although Syriza took on some of the demands of the movements that they emerged in 2011 with Indignados, and it expressed them on the electoral level, it still, and it became a government effectively, still you have to transform the party as well in a way that it will be much more active, much more building on the grassroots level. Unfortunately, what it happens sometimes is that when we move towards the electoral level, we forget the grassroots level. And by that, I don't mean the party should open its base and have more members. It's not about that. It's about connecting, not trying to recruit people for the party, but trying to connect with the struggles that exist on the grassroots, with from different, diverse groups, but with groups that they want emancipation, they want active citizenship, they want social justice. So in my mind, there are three different levels. One level is the level of the government, one is the level of the party, and these days what we see is that the party and the government, they are not agreeing necessarily. And then there is another level, which is the level of the movements and the grassroots and building their new structures, reorganizing the social fabric of society that it has been hit for these past 5 years very hard.
Since we saw that the attempt of a single government against the huge and powerful structure of the institutions and the power of Germany obviously cannot fight back those. What's the challenge for the transnational politics and also for the movements?
We have to understand, I think, first of all, that what is happening in Greece is not an issue about Greece. It's about a very particular financial system that exists in Europe. It is about capitalism on the global scale, and one small country will not be able, doesn't have enough power to reverse the situation. Yeah. So we need an offensive that it will be from an international movement and from different countries, and this will hopefully change the European and global dynamics. So I would say that on the electoral level, we have to fight harder to remove all neoliberal governments. They are the servants of these particular interests. They are not going to help, and we need a new logic in politics. Do you live in Britain?
No, in Germany. In Berlin.
Because I live in Britain, and we see that with the leadership of Corbyn in the Labour Party. Have you seen that at all?
Yeah.
This is another hope for a lot of people, that we will have again a Labour Party which will be socialist, and a Labour Party which will think differently, which will not talk against the poor people and criminalizing the poor people, but challenge the big interests that they have been becoming richer and richer all these years. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, so on the one level, it is to change these governments, and in Germany, I think as well, I don't know, I mean, I think Germany is quite difficult right now because maybe some people were prospering, you have a media environment mainstream media environment, I mean, which is pushing the line of the government. But again, we have a lot of comrades in Germany. We have unions that they support us, we have the left that support us, and it will be very important if at some point we could remove this particular German government, because it has very specific ideological position, and right now it has a position which is against Europe as we know it. So for us, we will not be able to talk anymore about a European project after 12th of July, when we saw that actually this particular German government was trying to break up the Eurozone. It wasn't a union anymore. It was a union that is going to benefit very particular countries, and we will push some of them on the side, and we will have them as cheap labor and so on. So in Germany as well, I mean, it would be important to change this government and resist. And I feel very much that it should happen in Germany as well, because there is a lot of anger towards Germany, and we have to differentiate between Germany, the German people, the people who fight, and the particular government, which is ideologically belonging to a very particular neoliberal bloc. So I think the first is to change these governments, if possible, and change the balance of powers, but at the same time, we need a mass movement on the ground. And even if we change these governments across Europe, if you don't have a movement on the ground that it is going in a way to direct these governments, to to radicalize them, if you want, from the bottom, again, just a government won't be able to do that much. So the two have to work together, and always we have to start from a grassroots movement that it is going to resist, it will demand different policies, it will radicalize the parties as well.